This is actually take 2 of this video because within the first 10 seconds of me talking on my previous take, I let out this horribly large burp. And I was like, I'm not going to edit this. This is a Ramble video, so I'll just start it over. It's only 10 seconds that I lost. Only 10 seconds of my life. So, and I don't really know where I want to start this video except to say that I know that it is a very nuanced position that I take, and that's why it takes so long of a ramble to try to explain it, and even then I think I'm going to fail. But this is regarding the drama of a user named Yobyaxes who had a channel that was pretty much dedicated to mirroring other people's work. And some people had an argument with him and decided to ask him to try to get him to take down their content. He didn't. He held to his ground, and he basically has a channel that serves as an anthology to being anti-MGTOW. And so Liz Reptile, a friend of mine, she compiled a list of every person who he had mirrored their video and let them know, hey, this guy's mirrored your video, probably without your permission. And she did so to let everyone know that, hey, maybe you want to put a takedown request on his channel because he's created a channel based on other people's work. So he had a video of mine on his channel. I looked at it, and I saw that it was an old drama beef, not even that good of one, between me and the Mad Shangy. And the Mad Shangy being the MGTOW of this this exchange. And I think that the video was probably included in the anthology as just one more instance of somebody who was a MGTOW being on the receiving end of the ponage. That's what I think. But it wasn't really like I was making anti-MGTOW arguments, you know? It was more just a personal beef. So, like, the fact that the Mad Shangy is a MGTOW in his own, you know, and I don't even know that that's a fact, but I'm assuming that was the reason for the video to be up on the channel. Him being from the MGTOWs and me ostensibly being from the anti-MGTOWs. I haven't really looked down their platform, but I just get this feeling that I'm probably against some of it. But okay, that's why my video was mirrored. And if you took all of the videos as a whole on his channel, you would get this feeling of, wow, this guy really reveres the anti-MGTOW content makers here on YouTube. His channel has changed now. It doesn't look like it did before. It's like the videos are unlisted right now, and I guess it's probably because he's probably defending himself from flagging attacks, you know. But I saw the channel when Liz Reptile's video first went up about this. And this was like 3 days ago. And his channel had a feeling to it that I immediately recognized as something that I had seen before many, many, many times in the distant past of YouTube. And that is the kind of channel that I'm talking about. Is there were channels that only had mirrored videos on them because people were having flag wars left and right. And every time somebody got flagged, they would say, "Hey, my content got flagged. Find the re-upload of the video here and please re-upload it as many times as possible." And kind of like a self-defense mechanism, especially in the atheist community, people would re-upload each other's content if it ever got flagged down, creating a sort of Streisand effect. You know, basically defense by Streisand effect. So, I used to come across, as a person who researched flags on the internet, many of these channels, right? That they were people who left comments on videos all the time, and they loved to interact with people all the time in the comments section, but they weren't necessarily people who liked to pick up the camera themselves. I don't know if it's they didn't have anything to say on camera, or they didn't like the way that they themselves looked or sounded on camera. They didn't want to even make a slideshow for us, but they felt like they were making a contribution enough by just hanging out in the comments section. And every once in a while, when it happened that somebody needed to be defended, they would re-upload their content. And this got to a point where people didn't have to ask. It was just assumed that if somebody got their content flagged down, that they would want it re-uploaded. And many of these users took it upon themselves to catalog every other user that they enjoyed and download all of their work right when it came out, just in case it got flagged down, so that they could re-upload it, right? And a lot of this happened without permission, you know? Especially when there are some videos that they had 100 different mirrors of it, you know? The permission was not expressed uniquely to each of these people, and sometimes the creator didn't make a follow-up video saying, "Hey, everyone, I just got flagged." Sometimes they waited a little while before they even spoke again on the internet. So, I think the greatest examples of this are so far in the past that you guys might not understand if you're like new to YouTube in the past few years. But there was this community where half of the people that partook in it, their content on their channel was just other people's work, right? And if you were to look at these channels, the majority of them had this bent to them where they were on the side of atheism and against theism, specifically Christianity most of the time, right? So, to see Yobyaxes' channel in this era, where he has none of his own content up, but he's collecting content against a certain ideology, MGTOW, and he is the anti-MGTOW, it seems just like those other channels. He's, in a sense, protecting the content that he thinks needs protected and preserved. He's made an anthology of sorts of the best of moments on the internet where MGTOWs were owned, you know. And I don't really have a problem with it, right? So, to take us back in time, just 2 years ago, 2 years to the day that Liz Reptile made her video, I made a video titled #FairUsePledge, wherein I said that if anyone takes any of my content and makes a fair use video out of it by being transformative and whatnot, I promise not to flag down their work, right? Because I respect fair use. I even go a little bit farther than that in my own personal feelings about intellectual property, okay? And I know that I'm alone in this for the most part, but I don't like the idea of intellectual property. I like the idea of libraries that are free to everyone. Okay? And you might have seen this theme come out of me in previous videos on my channel, such as me promoting Sci-Hub, a repertory of scientific articles and research that usually is kept behind paywalls that you cannot access unless you have a subscription to a service, or you are in college and your college library pays for a subscription to that service as a site license. So I saw this Sci-Hub organization pop up, and they were just they're part of a larger movement of making information free to everyone, right? And I love it. I think science, especially research, that a lot of it was paid for with public funds and grants, you know, at least in part, sometimes in whole. I think that science should belong to the people. And I know that this is probably a very socialistic view of knowledge, but I really feel like that's one of the best parts of YouTube, is you can, for free, find a tutorial on just about anything. Now, people still try to make things subject to paywalls because they're trying to make a living doing this stuff. Like, for instance, Skillshare. There are a bunch of YouTubers who have taken large portions of their creative work and put it behind the paywall of Skillshare. And then they use their YouTube videos that are free to everyone to pimp Skillshare as a service so that they can get a kickback. And they try to supplement their income that way. I guess I'm just very much a person who believes that there's a lot of laws about intellectual property that I disagree with. And I was upset back in the day when Napster was taken down. I was of the mindset that if CDs and records and DVDs and whatnot can be placed in a library and then shared for free under that context, then why can't we have a digital library that brings things to people faster? Why can't I just log on to New York Public Library, and if they have a CD in their collection, why can't they just put that CD in their computer for me and let me listen to anything that I want for free? It's in a library, right? And then what's the next step from that would be to just digitize everything that's in the library and make easier access for people. You know, and not just, you know, because there's some people who can't afford to travel all the way to the library, or may have physical limitations that keep them from going to the library. Not just that. Just for ease of access so that knowledge is more easily accessible. Right? And in this thinking that I have, I know that it would destroy certain industries if they were not able to profit from their published works in the ways that they have in the past, right? I know this. And I've taken a look at those industries, and I feel like most of the industry is built on the regulation of who's allowed to see certain works, be they artistic or just nonfiction that would help the world, you know? And what happens when media conglomerates come together and they have a stranglehold on who gets to see content and how they get to see it. For one, it'll make a little bit of that content extra good. Like the production polish that will get put on the 10 or so TV shows that is on a network, you know, at any given time. Maybe 20 shows. It's a level of production that you don't see in other people's work. I'll I'll grant you that. The opulence that it takes to be able to put that level of production polish on things sometimes is massive. But at the same time, I've seen creators with far more strapped budgets come up with great artistic works that hold up to what's put out in, you know, in the industry. And I feel like if we had less of these intellectual property laws, the technology that has been helping all of these you know, regular creators who have hobbies instead of lives dedicated to their art, if we had no intellectual property, it would have brought the technology to them quicker. Basically, everyone who's holding on to their copyright and intellectual property, and then they start getting management companies and whatnot, those management companies, in whatever industry it is, they are the gatekeepers to knowledge and information, and they're holding back from the people who don't have enough money to be able to read it all or see it all, you know? And I saw what emerged after the digital revolution with music was that artists primarily made their money not from the sale of whatever medium it was that their music was going out on. They assumed that people would download it and share it for free and probably not purchase it. And they became more invested in becoming performing artists in real life and making their money that way. And it became more of a thing if you want to support the artists that you like, to go out and see them, because you know that if they're going to stay at the level that they're at, you know, they have to be supported, you know, by you going out to see their shows rather than just enjoying it at home, you know. And you ask any recording artist, like, what percentage of their money is sales of their music, what percentage is live shows, it's getting more and more to the point where like 0% of the money that they actually make comes from the sale of their music. I've seen authors who, they like selling their book, but their main source of revenue is going on speaking tours that people pay to get into, and they'll maybe even make free podcasts, you know, and podcasters will go on speaking tours. I went to Aaron Mankey's speaking tour for the Lore podcast a while ago. Paid a pretty penny to get in, you know, got his book signed, and you know, it is a lifestyle that supports art, but also there is the Patreon support that people have adapted to. It's, I think, a different framework is possible other than people thinking about their artistic endeavors as being property that needs to be protected in this way. And as such, I don't feel like being a part of the culture of I made this video, this bit of ones and zeros that got put together, and I'm going to protect it, and if anyone else likes it and they want to make a copy of it, if I see it anywhere, I'm going to, put a copyright claim on it. Only on my channel, no, And I have a very different opinion than a lot of people on this. Some people would put a copyright claim anywhere that they were legally entitled to put that copyright claim on someone. Myself, I have a different perspective on this. Sometimes you might break the law because you feel like your principles are better than what the law is. Such as Nazi pug dude. I forget his name. But, he dressed up his girlfriend's pug as a Nazi, and he got taken to court over it because in the UK it's considered offensive, right? And he's still going to be appealing. He's still going to fight it to the end because he believes that his principles are where the law should be, and the law itself is what's wrong. But also, on the flip side of this, you can have people who don't enforce the law, who don't try to use the law because they believe that the law is wrong. And in this case, with Yobyaxes, I don't want to involve the law at all. On principle, I believe that what he did should be allowed. Was it transformative at all? It being on a channel, my video being on a channel that was completely dedicated to being anti-MGTOW, did give it another context, and whether or not that context is enough to be transformative, I don't think would hold up. In any reading of the DMCA, no intellectual property lawyer would say, oh yeah, well that's enough, because he's making an anthology about anti-MGTOW sentiment against MGTOW people. And so when he collects it all together, that makes it transform. No one believes that that's going to hold up in court. That is, by the letter of the law, that is not allowable. But by my principles, I think it is. Okay? I might not agree with his entire anti-MGTOW bent. He seems really, really, really obsessed with being an anti-MGTOW. And he took one of my videos out of 3,000 where I might have talked about a person who has MGTOW beliefs and wasn't even really talking about the MGTOW subject that much. And he put it in this different context, And I think that my work inside of that context is seen in a different light. He maybe was trying to create a who's who of who is anti-MGTOW, and if I am that far anti-MGTOW and don't even realize it, then I'm happy that I got this opportunity to be seen in that light and see if my work holds up in that light, and do some self-reflecting as to why the fuck would somebody think that I am a somebody enough to, keep me in an anthology of anti-MGTOW. I haven't even done any sort of research on the MGTOWs at all. I have one friend that claims to be one, and I haven't really asked him much about his life or what it means, And yeah, I feel like when Yobyaxes made this channel to re-upload people, he was doing something that I've seen many other people do. He's participating by using other people's content and not content that he makes himself. And that participation and the conversations that happen in the comment sections of his mirrors, that is a different transformation of people's work. I mean, you can't see the conversations now because he's tried to protect the channel and, unlisted a lot of things. But if my video on my channel is being seen by a certain audience, and they will have a certain conversation with me, to put that same video in front of a different audience and create a different conversation underneath that, where most of the eyes are people who hate a certain ideology that isn't as hated with my own audience, I feel like that is a creative endeavor. Right? His channel wasn't that big, but should the size matter that much when maybe at least there were 3 comments of people with a completely different perspective looking at that work, and the act of uploading it to this different audience created those comments. A lot of you are probably thinking, no, he's a dumbass and needs to be flagged down for copyright infringement at this point. And a lot of you are going to disagree with me. But yeah, I'm not flagging him. I'm not flagging anyone who re-uploads one of my videos. And if they don't do anything transformative to it, I don't even think I'm putting a copyright claim on it unless it looks like it's worth the money. Like, if it's getting like thousands and thousands of views and it's my video, and it's on somebody else's channel making them ad revenue, and they didn't do anything to it, maybe I'll put a copyright claim on it. But considering that I barely get $1 to $3 for every 1,000 views that I get, you'd have to get thousands of views on some other channel in order for me to even bat an eye at it. And Yobyaxes was not getting that. In fact, maybe he drove a couple people to my channel by his re-uploads, and by that he was promoting me. A lot of people who re-upload other people's works might think that they're promoting other people. So I don't hold any grudge against anyone who might be anti-Yobyaxes because of this drama that's happening over there on Liz Reptile's channel. But I just don't feel like I'm going to participate by putting a claim on my work in that way. And I've got a friend, his name's Bill. He makes zombie lawn gnomes, and you heard me right. He makes cement casts of gnomes that he sculpted, and then he makes them en masse, and he paints them hand-painted himself, and they're all disgusting looking, and he goes out to trade shows and sells them, right? And he has a phrase that he lives by when he's dealing with people. A lot of times he'll find a place for his art where the person might not have enough money to purchase it, but he knows that they're going to enjoy it, and he gives away freebies. Every now and again he'll just give someone a piece of his art because they appreciated it that much. It could be one of his special eyeballs that he sculpts. He's really good at it. He could make fake eyeballs for people, I swear to God. It could be one of his horror props that he makes. He's a really great artist in that respect. I'd say on par with any special effects department, really. He's awesome. And sometimes he finds somebody who's never going to be able to afford his work, you know. But they appreciate it so much, and he knows that that's the place where it needs to be. And he says, it's as it should be. And that's the way that we should all run our lives, as it should be, you know. In this case, I'm not flagging Yobyaxes because I'm taking the as it should be look at it, and maybe by the letter of the law, I should be putting a copyright claim on him, but I just don't feel like it's prudent of me, given my principles on intellectual property. So that's your ramble for today. I hope that I explained my position on this. And I'm not even afraid that a bunch of my content's going to end up on anyone else's channel by saying this, really. You know, like, I'm not afraid that there's some troll that's thinking, hey, I don't agree with you, and just to make my point, I'm going to make an entire archive of all 3,000 of your videos and upload it to a separate place, and then we'll see if you still hold to your principles. I don't think anyone really cares that much. That would be just retarded. But I do think maybe here and there I'm going to run into people who haven't asked whether or not they can mirror my work, and they just do it. And I'm now, after years of being here on YouTube and just looking at intellectual property disputes left and right, I'm beyond that. You know, I don't think that I'm going to become a millionaire making YouTube videos. You know, I don't think that I'm ever going to be a YouTube star. So why should I care? I make this stuff so that I can be heard. If somebody helps put my voice out a little bit further by amplifying me just a little bit more, why not? You know? Yeah. Take care, everybody.